Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Hello and welcome to Countryside here on Manx Radio. I'm Simon Clark.
And I'm Kirree. This week I popped along to the Southern Beekeepers honey tasting evening.
I went along and found out how the ploughing was going at the Northern Young Farmers ploughing match, and also took a trip to the parish hall in Andreas to the Ramsey Fur Feather Society show. Well, the nights are getting lighter, Kirree, already.
Oh, isn't it brilliant, Simon? Half an hour at least at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, and well, I was out scratching one evening this week and heard the bleating of young lambs already.
It's hard to believe, isn't it? It's come round so blooming quick. But a good spell of weather. It's been quite nice, and it is always nice. The temperature's quite warm, isn't it? So yes. I suppose it's ideal for them to be out in the fields. But yeah, these nights are lovely, aren't they?
And you can do anything, sort of weather-wise, as long as you can get to the animals, isn't it? That's the battle. I mean, the gates are a little bit boggy, but the equipment they've got now, it's easy to get in to feed them, isn't it? It's when the roads are blocked with things, that's when it gets difficult.
Oh, it is awful tricky when they've had lots and lots of days of rain and wet weather. The land becomes so sodden at this time of year. But now, hopefully, on the rundown into spring, things could pick up. We're always positive here at Manx Radio, aren't we?
Yes.
But no, like you say, access in the fields has been okay so far. Other years can be so tricky.
No, well, of course, the weekend that's just been, the Northern Young Farmers Plough match was postponed on the Saturday because of the weather. Did a lot of rain Saturday night into Sunday morning, but it went ahead on the Sunday to the Marracane field on the Bretley farm, kind permission of the Macmillan family there, and a good turnout, and there was all sorts of machinery, old and new, ploughing, and conditions were quite good for the job. And I caught up with one of the regulars, Chris Clegg. You've got the all grey outfit today, Chris. How's it going?
It's going all right up to now, I think, thank you. It is an old tractor. It was built in 1948 and converted to diesel in 1953.
Right, was that the sort of removal of the petrol paraffin engine and the diesel and same chassis?
Petrol engine. Yeah. It's just the engine that's changed, nothing else has. Right. But the plough is a bit later than that. But it's blackening the ground, that's what it came for.
Well, the original Ferguson plough, I suppose, looked a little bit shorter than this one, is it?
Yes, I have got a Ferguson plough which I do use and have used for a while for match ploughing, and it is shorter. The legs are not quite as long coming out to the back, and the moldboard's a little bit shorter. But it is the genuine Ferguson plough, whereas this is a Massey Ferguson plough.
Right. Well, what's the main? Was the Massey one later?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. These were built from 1960.
Right.
Whereas the Ferguson ploughs were finished in 1959.
Right. When you look at the moldboards on this, some of them they've got the squares in them. They had like little ears on them for cutting the tops of the furrow when you've done it. These don't have them?
No, this doesn't do that. This is just general purpose ploughing.
Right.
The ones with the blades on the back sometimes are for the Manx style ploughing. Sometimes are for the down the field further. There's some of the boys in there ploughing in the world class.
Right.
That's a different thing altogether, different style of ploughing.
Right. But it's been quite a bit of rain, but the fields up here north are howling up well.
This field is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. I mean, the boys put the match off from yesterday till today, and I think it was a very wise decision.
No four-wheel drive or nothing on this fella.
Well, there isn't, no, but you wouldn't have got in the field. Right. You know, that if it was raining down here like it was in Colby yesterday morning, it wasn't fit to be outside, never mind in the field.
So when did you get this tractor here, Chris? When did you acquire this one?
I've had this tractor for about 6 years, I think. It belonged to a friend of mine in Port St Mary, and its claim to fame, it's the tractor that was put on its side the night following the last Sulby show on Starwood Farm. Somebody got it going and managed to turn it onto its side and left it.
Got it going and shouldn't have got it going.
Right. I mean, I helped him to park the tractor the night before, and I know the battery lead had been taken off. Really? So whoever did it knew what he was doing. But anyway, it's salvaged, and I've done a little bit of work on it. And yeah, it's a good ploughing tractor.
Yeah, well, I suppose they're simple enough. You look at the big Fendt tractor that's there, 200 odd horsepower. How many's in this one?
This one is 32 brake horsepower.
Yeah.
It's only a 3-cylinder engine. It's a Perkins 3-cylinder engine. As I said before, it's a conversion set they did when petrol became too expensive. And it'll plough along all day. It's a very good. If you've got 2 or 3 footers behind it, it'll cope with that all day long. Yes. I have got a 3-footer plough, and I've used it on this tractor, and it's no bother to it.
The traditional 56er pound weight on the back of there?
Just part of the match ploughing kit.
But it is an art to this, isn't it? And you can take great pride in looking back at this plough, especially when the sun's shining on the top of it today, isn't it?
Yes, it looks well when the sun shines on it, right enough. But it is an art, and maybe it's a dying art, because there's not as many ploughing now as the one was when I started.
Yeah.
And I've been ploughing that many years.
No, and this is the thing, there won't be as many in agriculture, but a lot of the people that are here though probably didn't plough when they were younger.
Some didn't. My family were not into farming, although I did spend a lot of time on a farm when I was at school, which is probably where I get this idea from. And I learnt to drive tractors and work with people and work with machinery on the farm, which is where, as I say, I get would you call it a grounding from?
Yeah.
And in fact, there was a time when I helped to set the match plough with Mr. Raymond Gorn.
Yes.
And it goes back a long time. And Ray's been a friend of mine for a long number of years, and he still comes to the ploughing matches with me sometimes.
But there's the great camaraderie amongst everybody, isn't it? Everybody's studying it and panicking in case somebody else's is better, but always willing to help if something falls off.
Oh yes, that's absolutely right. If you've got a problem, the boys will come and help you.
Yeah.
You know, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who wins. You've had a day out and you've done some ploughing, and that's really what it's all about.
Chris Clegg there from Colby telling me about the tractor and the plough, and how he got started in the world of the ploughing competitions, and saying there that, you know, he wasn't necessarily had a farm of his own, but as he got older, he acquired the tractor and the plough and just got into it, and such a great crew, you know, helping each other out if something falls off the plough, or, you know, when they're up and coming and learning, because there's always plenty of knowledge and experience there, isn't there?
Well, this is it. Ploughing is such an essential part of agriculture, even in this day of age with all of the technologies and whatnot. Them basic skills are so important to create a lovely seed bed for that crop that year. And them old boys, you know, spreading that knowledge down through all the young ones there joining in the young farmers clubs is so important. You see some of them go ratcheting across the field and they're digging for Australia, but it only needs to be a couple of inches, and once they start learning and going to events like that, and like you say, you don't have to be a farmer to go and try a new skill. Who knows, it could be a great hobby.
I know. Some won't be satisfied with a couple of inches, I wouldn't have thought. But there you go. I didn't see Tom Kermode there.
No, be busy feeding the cows this time of year. But we have Kenneth Cool for the Southern Contracting there. He comes along and does a great job each year. And many other good contractors in the south that will come around the farms and get on with it fairly soon, I suppose.
Okay, well, not many bees flying at this time of year, but a mighty event that was on that you attended.
Oh, fantastic event. The Southern Beekeepers and all of the beekeeping associations around the Isle of Man are so good to promote how important it is the bees are in the circle of life. And I popped along to the Viking in Castletown, where the Southern Beekeepers were having a honey tasting evening. Cilla Platt, a lovely evening here at the Viking in Castletown. The 7 jars we've had tonight, all from the south of the island, tasting exceptionally different.
Yes, people tend to think of honey as a little jar of something runny that you buy in the supermarket. But if you buy local honey, you'll suddenly realise it's got a flavour.
It really has, but not only that, different colours, different textures. I know a lot of work goes in from the beekeepers for the different textures in particular, but the variety of tastes, what creates it?
Well, it is just to do with flowers. It's really strange. You know, we had a really hot summer a couple of summers ago, and the flora that produced must have been totally different because everybody had a very pale honey that year, and we don't know what it was because none of us have got strong enough microscopes to actually look at the pollen inside. But nowadays, one or two of us are actually having the honey looked at and checked for the types of pollen that are in it.
That is absolutely fascinating, isn't it? And with that sunshine that year in particular, still, did it make the honey sweeter? They believe sunshine makes everything sweeter.
No, I mean, honey is sugar, isn't it, after all? So, no, the different types of sugars, the fructose and the sucrose in it, it is the sort of balance between the two that changes some of the change of flavour. But it is the flowers that they go to. And we have a nice diversity of flowers around the place. And one of their favourites, of course, the back end is fuchsia, which is not a native, is it? But, they love it. It's quite hard work for them to get it, but it is a very useful autumnal flower.
It is very pretty as well, isn't it, around the hedgerows and the gardens. What would be your favourite?
Well, I like a heather honey, but it's a pig to extract, so I'm not so keen on having it, but I think there's quite a lot of heather in the one that I brought. And heather honey is one of the very few that does not granulate. And if it does granulate, it has a very big granule in it. And usually it sits at the bottom or suspended inside the honey, and it's very gelatinous. But the other honeys should all granulate, and if they don't, you know it's been either heat treated or it's had every vestige of pollen taken out of it. And that's what they need for these squeezy bears. And if you buy a jar of honey at this time of the year, if it's runny, then it's just sugary water. But it's quite individual, actually. Some people like one type of honey and some people like another. It's like Manuka honey in the native New Zealand. The New Zealanders loathed it. So that's why they actually found a couple of students looked at it to see whether it could be used for anything, because they used to feed it to their pigs.
Oh, goodness.
And throw it away because nobody liked it. It had such a strong flavour.
It really does.
And then these two lads put them on petri dishes with other honeys and things, and they discovered that was the only honey that they produced that killed all the bacteria that they introduced. And they thought, wow, we're onto a winner here.
Absolutely.
But there's been work done since that in places like Ireland, and it is reckoned that heather honey is probably almost as good, if not better.
Well, fancy that. And we have it here right on our island.
We do.
So tonight's winner was Gwen. Hers was Gwen's crystallised?
Yes, she had one crystallised and one not. And you can actually just put them in, sit the jar in hot water and allow it to melt again, and it will become runny. It doesn't have quite the flavour of when it first came out of the hive, but it's certainly probably easier to deal with if you want to put it in a cake or you want to put it on your toast.
Would you agree with the winning tasting one?
Oh yes, there's some lovely flavours tonight. And actually I almost preferred them to my own. But then you can't really say to the bees, you're only going to that flower and not that one. You take what you get.
Well, this is it. We were talking earlier that some of the honeybees were from Santon, and even just a few metres apart, they tasted so very different.
Well, I'm not really certain as to why that would be, but I assume that when a particular hive gets to have the maximum number of bees in it during the summer, maybe there's a particular flora that's ready and willing to be pollinated. So
who knows?
Yes.
And tonight also Debbie was second place in the tasting competition, only 2 years into beekeeping, and thoroughly enjoys it.
She's wonderful, yes. She's such a helpful person as well. Not only is she a good beekeeper, but if you want anything doing within the Federation, she's the one to go and call on, or one of the ones to go and call on, I should say. We're very lucky. We've had a long history of beekeeping on the island, and the Federation, actually the Ramsey Association is the oldest, and they're having their 90th birthday this year.
That's incredible.
The Southern, we've just had our 75th anniversary, so they've been going a long time, without a break.
This is it, but the knowledge, the sharing of knowledge in little, evenings like tonight, the tasting session for honey, it's fascinating, the information that you spread out. Even now, this many years on, you've been involved a little while now, and you still probably learn new things every time.
Oh yes, I mean I've kept bees for well over 40 years now, and I'm still learning. I actually run the beginner's course, and it's very good for you to actually make sure that you brush up your knowledge, because people ask the most incredible questions. And children in school, because I go and talk to kids in schools, and they will be the ones who ask the questions I can't answer. They really are. They've got wonderful minds, and it's great to know that they think further than just bees sting.
This is it. And also tonight we learned that Ashley Hill Primary School has a bee tree.
Yes, they've got some bees in a hole in the tree, haven't they? Yes.
But it's lovely that they're not scared of them. They're going to grow up with the bees there.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and we do get contacted by people if there's a hive of bees close to a colony of bees close to a school, to say, well, look, do you think these could be of harm? Because if they're at sort of head level, it might not be a good idea, because they could get stuck in a kid's hair, and then children will panic. Anybody would panic with a bee in their hair.
But I suppose this is where you come into it, to provide the education to the younger children, to not be frightened of them, or hopefully not be.
Well, yes, I mean, I think swarms are the worst thing. People cannot get their heads around the fact there's so many bees when they're flying over in a swarm. I mean, we've chased swarms up and down Port Erin High Street before now, when they decide that, no, they didn't really want to hang up there. They wanted to hang up somewhere else, and you just go back and you get the equipment, and they've gone. But you know that they're around because people are going, ah, and running them. But in fact, bees are at their gentlest when they're swarming, because they're really intent on moving house and going and set up somewhere else.
So that's all they're doing? They're just moving home?
Yes, that's all they're doing. And they usually tank up on honey before they leave their original nest, so that they can go and set up somewhere else, because of course they don't go to the supermarket to buy all the stuff they need for their new home. They actually have to make it themselves, and they make it out of the honey that they carry.
Wow. And will they travel far as a swarm?
They could go up to a mile, I suppose. It really depends on the sort of place that they're looking for and whether it's available. Because, of course, they used to live in hollows in trees, and we as human beings don't like that, because they might fall on our car, so we cut them all down. So there's very few places. And actually, one of their favourites is a chimney, because it's very similar to a hollow tree. And it's our own fault, because we've taken away all their natural nest sites. So there we are.
And that's another story.
Yes, it is.
But tonight, a great success, Scylla.
Good, yes. Well, it's always a nice friendly occasion where everybody has a good chat. You see, they're not going home now.
But some of them were going up to retest some of the tasting samples to make sure...
Good excuse, isn't it?
Exactly, that the real winner was chosen.
Yes, I think so.
Debbie Cargus, congratulations, third tonight in the honey tasting. It is a big undertaking. Tasting honey, you think it sounds so easy, but they're all so different.
I know they are really, really different, and it's amazing when they're all from such a small area on the island, how different they can taste.
And yours in particular, Debbie, 3 keepers on the one road.
Yeah, we've got, there's quite a few of us around our area, so it's quite a pressure for the poor old bees, but they seem to do well.
But you do look after them. It does take a lot of time, doesn't it, to make good honey?
Well, I don't know, the bees take a long time to do it. No, they do very well, bless them. Yeah, it does. It's a commitment that you have to look up. Well, it can be as much of a commitment as you make it, really.
You're very new to beekeeping as well. This is your second year, so I suppose it's a big undertaking to look after them.
Yeah, I think you tend to worry much more when you're first new to it, because especially at winter time, because you're trying to make sure that they go through the winter, and that I think one of the first beehives I opened after I had done the course. It was really sad because all the bees had actually died over the winter. Yeah, and it was just so awful to see all these poor bees that just died, and so that really stuck with me for a long time.
And you obviously would blame yourself and what have I done wrong? But it does happen,
it wasn't
doesn't
one of
it?
my hives, but it was just So you really try and work hard to make sure you look after them.
And what do the beekeepers do at this time of year? Because obviously it's gone quite miserable and rainy out there now.
This time of year, you're checking the hives, so you're lifting them. You don't open them because it's too cold for the bees. So you lift them by one corner just to check the weight of them to see that they've got enough stores in them. You're cleaning your equipment. You're getting new equipment ready for next year, building hives, and that's that sort of thing really. And having a bit of downtime.
You say, Debbie, that obviously they've gone into their hive for the winter. On the build-up to go and to settle for the winter, can people feed them? Can they put stuff out for the bees to take back?
Definitely not. If you see a bumblebee or something like that laying around and looking like it's looking a bit sorry for itself, give a bit of fizzy drink, a bit of lemonade or a bit of sugar syrup, something like that, but never, ever, ever honey. They carry so many things that will pass on, and it's really dangerous to feed bees honey.
And what would you do for your hive before winter? Would you put something ready for them?
Yeah, before winter time I feed them sugar syrup, and so I give them as much of that as I can until about November time, when it gets too cold for the water to evaporate, and they take that and store that as fake nectar, I suppose. And then once it gets to winter time, I give them, if they need it, fondant, which is just what you put on your Christmas cake, basically.
Yep. And will they take it up, or do you have to monitor it quite closely?
I have put some out for mine, but I've probably been overcautious. I probably don't need to.
And is this quite a mild winter for them? Because temperatures, even this week, were 10 to sort of 12 degrees.
Yeah. My bees were out flying today.
Wow, what a sight.
So it was nice to see that. And at this time of year, they'll still be taking things like ivy nectar on a hot sunny day. So they'll be taking things, and then fairly soon they'll be starting to take things like snowdrops and various trees and things like that. Willow's quite early, I think. So
but it's quite surprising. I've learned so much in just coming along, as a spectator to the beekeeping events and meetings that are on. But like the likes of sycamore tree and like you say, the hibbon and the ivy, you just think it's a green bush.
Oh, I know,
because you always relate them to flowery, beautiful, colourful plants.
You do, don't you? You do. You don't. It's fascinating to know just how important trees are, actually, as well as flowers. It's people always think of bees and flowers, but it's not. It's the trees as well. And you can't necessarily see the flowers, but they are still having nectar coming out of them and things. So it's really, really important.
And people always try to help the bees, obviously, because they're so important to the circle of life. What would you recommend to someone with maybe a window box or a little garden? Can they help?
Definitely. One of the main things that I've learned is when you look out for flowers, you know how you get some double flowers and then you get single flowers as well. Go for the single flowers, because then they can get they tend to have the nectar and the pollen a lot more than the double blooms do. So that's one big way. And just having a variety of things. And not being afraid of bees. I think that's a big thing. A lot of people are afraid of them, but they tend to only affect you if you push them away and stuff like that. So, yeah.
And I do believe that the Manx bee is quite a gentle giant. The more calmer-natured ones seems to be the ones that get kept more so now.
Yeah, and because no bees have been imported into the island for so many years, the Manx bee is becoming much more prevalent, and it's a very dark bee. It looks not like your normal sort of a very yellow bee. This is much darker, and generally a much calmer bee. You still get stings, but you learn to live with those.
So the honey this year, has it been in abundance for you?
No.
No, it was quite a wet, on and off throughout the year, wasn't it?
Yeah, my queen went off lay in the middle of the year, so that meant that I nearly lost the hive, but they pulled themselves together because it got so cold in May, June time, and so that was a bit of a tricky situation. But good learning curve.
And like you say, only been in it 2 years. Have you enjoyed it so far?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's really, really good fun. And the more you learn, the more you realise you don't know. And being in places, places like this where you can pick people's brains and, so many more experienced beekeepers, it's really useful. And they're always so useful and willing to help and chat and give you hints and things like that, which is really lovely.
But you don't have to have a hive to come along and join in, do you?
No, absolutely not. No, there's a lot of people who come along and are just supporters really, and all the new beekeepers have been invited along and things like that. So yeah,
glad you done it.
Definitely, good fun. Lots to learn, but good fun.
Gwen Kelly, congratulations, another winner. Tonight was a little bit different, a group of people tasting the honey. But yours was right up there, 10 points clear at the top. What made yours so different?
I don't know, really. There was some very delicious honeys here tonight, and they were all different, and people just seemed to like my one. So
what do you think your bees would feed on, sort of, to make it have that little bit of an edge? Would there be something different where you're farming at?
We have a lot of clover, a lot of white clover in the fields through the summer. We have a lot of hawthorn on the hedges. And we've got garlic in Portsadrick Glen, and sycamores and lots of trees in the glen and roundabout. So maybe it's just a combination of all these factors.
Obviously, they're all quite sweet, but there was a bit of variation. One lady suggested one tasted a bit more daffodils, one a bit more woody. Could you taste them amongst them too?
I could taste the citrus flavours from the one from the Slough and from the Richmond Hill, but daffodils don't have any nectar or pollen in them whatever. They are completely useless for bees.
Isn't that amazing? Because you see lots of people thinking, we plant a good few bulbs. Not only does it look lovely on the roadsides come in the early spring, but they're of no use, are they? That's just the terrible thing that we didn't know, maybe.
Dandelions, they're the best.
And they're the very ones everyone gets out with a strimmer and tries to get shut off, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes.
So the winter's come. What happens now at early spring? Where do you start off for the next year?
The queen will start laying in February. At the moment we go round and heft the hives, which means lift them. If they're very light, we go home and get fondant icing for them and put a block of maybe 6 or 8 ounces of fondant icing on the top of the hive, and that will keep them alive until March and April, when there's more fodder for them.
Debbie was saying tonight that they've even been out a little bit lately.
Yeah.
It's been mild enough for them this winter.
Yeah, if it's a nice, calm, sunny day, they'll be out on cleansing flights and looking to see if there's anything. Now, the snowdrops are coming out slowly, and snowdrops and willow are some of the first nectar-producing plants for them.
So the cycle starts all over again. But tonight, which was your favourite? Obviously, it must be quite tricky having your own and you can't be biased, but what was yours out of the tasting competition? There's 7 lovely jars there.
I like jar F, and I don't know, was that John's hive from Bollabeg? That was very nice. I like that. That was a very creamy one. Quite a soft set honey as well, and it was nice.
And what do you think his bees would have been having a little bit different from yours, maybe?
I don't know. There's lots of gardens around Bollabeg and Ronnig, so it could be some trees there that we haven't got, and they just go visit them, so it might just give an edge to that.
Well, I can't get over how fascinating it is, all from the south of the island. The Isle of Man is such a small place, but the variation in colours and tastes and right across the board tonight, and quite prominent, weren't they? All very different.
They were all very different, yes.
And how will that go with the sales? Do we all sell on the doorstep, the farmers' markets? How do Manx people get a hold of the Manx honey?
The garden centres, Tom Long's garden centre in Alexander Drive, he sells Manx honey. Eden Park, they sell Manx honey. Lots of the chemist shops in Douglas, they all sell Manx honey. There's even butcher shops on Prospect Terrace that sell Laxey honey there.
So people can get it then, and if you want to get involved with the beekeeping, Gwen, how would they get hold of someone to give them some guidance?
If you look on your computer, Isle of Man Beekeepers have got a website and a Facebook page, and contact any of the beekeepers. We're the southern beekeepers here in the south of the island, and Cilla Platt is the chairman. You can join the Beekeeping Society. You can take lessons. We have the lessons starting now and running through, and then in May you can come along to the apiary at Marown and put a bee. We'll supply you with a bee suit. Bring your own wellies and gloves, and you can have a look in the hives and see if it's beekeeping is what you want to do.
And that there, the opportunity, Gwen, to get up close and personal with the beekeeping. But they're so important to life, aren't they? People don't realise how important they are.
Well, there's been various surveys that said that the bee is the most important insect or animal on the planet. So without bees, there'll be no fruit to be pollinated. There'll be no lots of the vegetables and plants need bees to pollinate them.
So get involved where we can, isn't it, really?
They've discovered in China where they've drenched everything in pesticide, they have to go round and with a feather to pollinate all their pear trees. So hopefully we'll never get to that stage.
That was the organiser of the Southern Beekeepers Tasting Evening in Cilla Platt and two of the prize winners, Gwen Kelly and Debbie Carcass.
Did you get a bit of taste of honey yourself?
My golly, it was beautiful, Simon. Really good.
Runny or stiff?
Both.
All right.
Yes, they were telling me all about how to make the perfect honey, and the quality we have on the Isle of Man is second to none. And they say that some of the properties in the heather honey is that of the Manuka, so that does bode well. But
it's got the medicinal properties, hasn't it?
This is it. And at the honey show they had there back in October, November time, they had a class for the different items made from the honey, and there was the medicines, the facials, all these things that you take for granted from a little animal pottering around doing his own thing out there. But what a great evening. But the tastes were just divine.
Remarkable. Stiff or runny for you?
I like the creamy one in the middle, I did.
Oh, right.
Gwen Kelly's from Port Sodrick.
Yeah, I quite like the stiffer stuff with like the sugary crystals in it, that spreads on the toast nicely. You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kirree Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Well, for many years, not just at the Royal Manx Agricultural Show, the Southern Show, the people who own poultry and birds, guinea pigs, rabbits, cavies, all sorts of things, get the chance to display them and win some prizes at the annual Fur and Feather Society shows. Well, the Ramsey branch held theirs at the Parish Hall in Andreas last weekend, and I popped along and spoke to two of the judges, Joe Harrison and also Andrew Walmsley.
Joe Harrison, you're in charge of the poultry section, is it?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, and how's it been looking today?
It's been good. There's been strong entries in the large fowl and that. There's a good variety of birds, variety of colours. Yeah, it's been not a bad entry really.
Yeah, but I mean, people who used to seeing the hens and things on the farmyards, they won't realise that there's so many different breeds and colours and sizes of poultry, isn't it?
Yeah, there's shapes, colours, creeds. They're all different colours of and varieties of birds. It'd be good to get down and have a look, and there's usually something that takes the eye for everybody really.
Yeah. Now you, I suppose, are more used to, you've judged before, you were telling me, yes. But you quite prominent in showing the poultry yourself?
Yes, yeah. I show modern game, just small exhibition breed, large modern game, and Plymouth Rocks, which you class as more of a farmyard utility style breed, good egg laying breed.
Yeah, and what got you into showing the poultry?
My dad has always had poultry. I live on a small holding, or a small farm you could say, and always had poultry and things around. So yeah, from a young age, always been involved in poultry and interested. Yeah.
First time in the Isle of Man on the poultry side of things?
Yes, been here probably 5 or 6 times before rallying on the car rally, and
bit of a contrast then.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have many hobbies, and love the island. Quick to get to for us, so it's a plane, so it's all right. 20 minutes or so.
Are you allowed to bring any yourself to show?
Well, I would, in the summer.
Yeah.
Summer shows, it'd be all right on board. Yeah, it'd be all right. Yeah.
Yeah, because some of the ones on the Isle of Man do head over to the shows away. So just that sort of interest, whether many come over to the island.
I've not noticed anybody come over, to the island, but it would be it would help support as well these shows to keep them going on the island as well.
going back to the breeds of poultry, then how many do you reckon there would be if you totaled them all up? That are available in the UK probably is
well over 100.
Really?
Oh, well over 100 breeds available. Yeah, and that's just chickens alone. Then obviously you've your ducks, your geese, turkeys, guinea fowl. All come under the banner of poultry. So,
any decisions made yet?
All decisions made.
Are they?
Yes.
But kept till the presentation?
Yes.
Good. Well, anyway, good to talk to you, and good to see you on the Isle of Man.
Thank you.
Andrew Walmsley, you're one of the judges as well, but you're judging a different section.
Yeah, I'm judging the cage and aviary section, canaries, foreign finches, seed-eaters, budgies, all types of cage birds, really.
And it's good to see a lot of younger ones coming around because, there's loads of different colours and sizes and breeds of the poultry side, and particularly in them cage birds as well. The colours are fantastic.
There's hundreds of colours, and there's lots of different types of and varieties of birds that we keep. I'm a budgie breeder myself. I also keep poultry. I live on a small holding, and I look both sides of the hobby, both poultry and the cage birds. Right. But predominantly I breed budgerigars and show a lot of budgerigars up and down the country.
When we were kids, there was an odd budgerigar in a cage in a house and stuff. But when you get to the chance to come to these shows, it's amazing how many different types and colours there are available.
Oh yeah. The canaries today have been absolutely fantastic. Some beautiful canaries and some. I picked my best in show as a canary. It was a beautiful bird. It was a split decision between two canaries for best in show. I had a job to split them myself because the quality was that good.
And what do you look at? The brightness of the colour, the shape of the bird? Or?
The shape, the colour, the feathering, how tight the feathering are, if they've got any feathers missing. You just check and in general look at them, make sure that they look perfect. You're just looking for quality. Usually when you put a bird up, in your own eye, you pick one out and you can see it stands above the rest.
When you're looking at them at home and getting them ready for the shows, do you have a fair idea of which ones of your own are going to do well?
There's ones you hope are going to do well, yeah. But it's like any day. You go to any show, you can win at one show with 5 birds, and you can take the 5 birds to the next show under a different judge. They might not do nothing. You've no guarantee. It's the judge on the day. What his interpretation of the feathering is, the overall quality of the bird. It's every judge's own decision.
But it seems a hobby that does take a lot of tender love and care involved in it.
Oh yeah, I spend too much time in my bird room really. My wife, she goes mad. She keeps wanting to know how many birds I've got, but I keep forgetting to tell her. But it's a great hobby. I've done it since I was little, and I'm still in it now.
Well, we'll let you crack on and have a look around, and thanks for talking to us today.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Andrew Walmsley, and before that, Joe Harrison telling me about their judging techniques for coming to the Isle of Man from Lancaster, and also a bit about their background with displaying them and supporting the shows back home in Lancashire where they're from. So not quite as many as thought turned out, but still there was a lovely presentation there with the birds, all different sizes, and also the canaries and the budgies. John Keenan had there some wonderful ones, and David Thompson as well. It was a good display, and a lot of young and old, which is nice.
It is really lovely to go to those fur and feather shows, and if anybody does get a chance to pop along, there's a few more coming throughout the year. But the effort, Simon, that goes in to prepare them, you don't think you can wash a hen or a rooster, but you can. The hours that go into getting the feathers just nicely, all of the feeding regimes to get the coats to shine so pristine for that event. It's no different than if you're showing a bigger animal, whether it's a cow or a horse or any other things that go in these shows. The work that goes into it is just second to none.
It is. Well, you can tame most things except a woman. And just gives me a little note to say that the 93rd annual Onken Fur and Feather Society show for poultry, pigeons, cats, cavies, rabbits and cage birds, that will be held also at the Andreas Parish Hall on Sunday the 2nd of February 2020, and entries close on the 17th of January for that, so you can get in touch with Tina Johnsey for that one. All the details will be on the Facebook pages.
So one last thing before we go, Simon. The Isle of Man Federation of Young Farmers are going green for Australia to help with those terrible, terrible bushfires. And on Friday the 17th, they're asking if people can wear green and a minimum donation of £2 a person. So if you know a company that wants to get involved, please let them know before Wednesday the 15th by emailing the Isle of Man Young Farmers at outlook.com. And they'll be able to send you the fundraising package and more information. It's absolutely horrendous out in Australia at the minute with the wildlife, whether it's kangaroos, koalas, but also the livestock, the farmers that are in absolute dire need, and they're nothing left to eat, have they? So it's just an absolute mess.
No, it is. It's tragic what can be happening around the world, isn't it? And sometimes you've got to think yourself lucky that we do live on the Isle of Man. We do moan about it, but we don't have to be subject to those sort of things.
The volatile weather. It's terrible.
OK, well, we'll leave it there for this week's Countryside. We're back next week on more. If you missed parts of the programme, catch up online at manxradio.com, and you can download the podcast or the Listen Again feature. And if you've got anything for Countryside, leave a message for Kirree Kermode or Simon Clark here at Manx Radio, or send an email to countryside@manxradio.com. So until next week, from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kirree Kermode.
We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.